Happy Monday. Good morning to everybody out there checking in on the Washington Commanders morning show here on the Chopper Dive podcast platform, man. Appreciate everybody checking in, tuning in. But before we get things started, you know what time it is. Wake that ass up. The morning show is starting right now.
Chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down, you gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
man. Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, man. Good morning to everybody tapping in. Hey, listen. Before we get started, let's get the administrative items out of the way. If you are new, it's only one administrative item now that I think about it. But if you are new to the Trap or Dive, make sure you are following on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube. If you are not, again, subscribed or following already, it is truly appreciated. Later in the show, as always, I will be opening up the floor to the viewers. The StreamYard link is in the description on YouTube to join the show. I will also just share it through the comments when we're ready to, talk a little or whatever you want to talk about. That's really what it is. When I open up the floor to the viewers. So I will share the link to everybody to join. But it is in the comment section. So check out that. Look out for that. And I think we go ahead and get started, man. So look, how was y'all weekend? I hope y'all had a safe weekend. I had myself a good little weekend, man. It wasn't nothing too special. Actually, I do have one more administrative item. My bad, because it was a late edition. So I completely almost forgot it. I'm going to have the good man David Harrison of Sports Illustrated, or Fan Nation, I guess is what they call it, for the Washington Commanders and the Locked On Commanders podcast network. He is covering Washington Commanders training camp. He got boots on the ground in a sense. So we're going to check in with the good man David Harrison and get his thoughts and insight on all things Commanders, what he's seeing actually at camp. So I think by the time we see him, I think he'll actually be at camp getting ready for practice. So we're going to check in with David Harrison, a good friend of the show. We'll be checking back in. So there we go. We got a few things to talk about. I hope y'all had a good weekend, though. Hope it was safe. I had, for those who do know and been checking in with the show, I got my little flag football thing going on Sundays. And yesterday it feels good that football season is back and flag ball is actually right around the corner for me too. We had a little break in our playoffs. We got smoked in the playoffs. It was very frustrating. Or we got embarrassed. I put it that way. We didn't really get smoked, but losing to a team that you shouldn't lose to, that's kind of where things go wrong. But outside of that, just having football back for me personally is always a good thing. We got football this Thursday. The Raiders and the Jaguars. Thursday night football, man. Hey, we're right around the corner. And then the Washington, I think the Commanders' first game, Washington, because I be forgetting. Commanders preseason. There we go. The Commanders preseason first game is August 13th. So that's 12 days? Next Saturday, man. Hey, football is back, bruh. Football is back. I'm geeking. Like, that's all I need to see. Next Thursday is going to hold me for a good little minute. See what this Thursday, see what Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence, mainly Trevor Lawrence, see what he talking about. But yeah, man, I'm just excited about some things. So let's get into the agenda, the show agenda today. You guessed it again, Commanders. Ryan Kerrigan retired, man. How good was Ryan Kerrigan within his era? We always talk about, what he did for Washington and the Commanders. And we do sometimes make those comparisons about Kerrigan and how he stacks up against the other pass rushers in his era. But let's kind of have a more macro conversation to Kerrigan and not necessarily related to the Commanders. How good was he within his era? How does he stack up against the pass rushers of the 2010 decade, 2010 through 2020, obviously? See how he stacks up, man, and go from there. Curtis Samuel. Let me make sure something. Okay. Curtis Samuel was limited again, or limited over a couple of practices. We're going to quickly check in with that, and some offensive line injuries shuffling brings in a couple of new tackles. These two situations, I don't want to call them like problems or anything, but are these two situations concerning? We're going to talk about that. Sam Howell came across some content Friday, maybe, or Thursday. I don't remember what day it was. But Sam Howell, man, is he quarterback number 2 worthy? Or is this a little premature? We're going to talk about that. And then a Duron Payne nugget that's going under the radar right now, because I think that it should be noted. It should be worth talking about. I'm going to bring it up to the show today. So we're going to talk about Duron Payne as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start the show. We're going to start it off with the quick hitting topics. Curtis Samuel was limited twice in practice, according to multiple reporters that was there. Now, he did participate in some instances, like the early portions of the practices, but didn't really finish the later end of the practices. And while Ron Rivera preaches that this is all out a continuance, abundance, a caution, I don't know. I think the thing is, like, if in theory, if a person is fully healthy, is caution really needed? If you have a person who's coming back from injury, that's not named Curtis Samuel, are you really, and the doctors say that, he's a full go. Are you really concerned that he can hurt himself again? I think for me, how I'm processing this when it comes to Curtis Samuel is, limited, but there's no significant, notable injuries, not on the injury list. But for him to be limited, I don't know if the coaches really trust him in terms of his actual, I think, his groin. I don't think coaches actually trust him just yet. And of course, the doctors don't necessarily trust him just yet, or they want to be safe and actually make sure he makes it to the regular season. But I think if you're already protecting him in the first week of training camp, no, it's only been 4 days. If you're protecting him in the first week of training camp, is that an encouraging sign for the future of Curtis Samuel heading into the season and throughout the season? His durability, again, if you talking about an abundance of caution, I think you also have to take into account that this ain't necessarily an ideal situation for anybody. Like, anybody coming off an injury should have had a significant amount of recovery time, especially for a person in Curtis Samuel who has missed basically what? Let's go to it right quick. I actually got it pulled up. Hold on. Curtis Samuel. Here we go. Curtis Samuel stats. Played 5 games for Washington last year. He only played 5 games. And I think a couple of those, he didn't even play a full game. So I think, yes, sir. What's going on, Sean? Appreciate you checking in. Look, welcome to the Commanders Morning Show. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 a.m., man. 7 a.m. But back to Curtis Samuel. Again, when you're talking about a guy who only played 5 games last season, I don't think that you have to necessarily be in a position, and I keep forgetting this. Where's my music at? Let's go. Man, I need my music, bro. OG, appreciate you checking in. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is true, Sean, man, on YouTube. That is the case. I don't know what's going on with the Twitch love, bro. I don't complain too much, man. I show up for myself. I show up for, the people who enjoy the content. But you're not lying. Twitch has changed. Twitch has changed on me. But we take that how it comes, bro. But appreciate you checking in. Let's get back into it. What's going on, OG? My bad. I know I showed you on the screen, but appreciate you checking in. Hope all is well. I know you on your commute, if I'm not mistaken, to work. But yeah, man, Curtis Samuel, the topic is right now is there any concern with Curtis Samuel for you, the viewers, people in the chat? For me, I am a little concerned. I think I'm concerned again and I'll outline my reasons right quick once more, is that I don't think a person who played 5 games, and please excuse my dog, she just woke up, and I don't need, like, last time she was asleep. Last Friday she was knocked out. But I don't think that a person who played 5 games last year and had an abundance of time to recover should be limited in practices, in the first week of practices at that. It's kind of noteworthy to take into account, because in any other situation for any other player, if a person's coming off an injury who missed that much time his first year in Washington, are you really limiting him in practice out of an abundance of caution? I don't think that's going to be a situation, or an ideal situation, where anybody's going to sit here and say, hey man, it's whatever. Like, if the coaches know better than you, like, I think we can read what's going on. I think that's an easy read for us. Anybody should be back full time. And for him to be limited, I don't know if the coaches really trust him in his groin yet. Like, not in the literal sense trusting him, but I don't think they trust his groin yet, that he can really withstand a full practice for consecutive days at a time. And then you got to convert that part into the preseason, and then even further for 17 games. I hope he can do it, but I don't think the coaches trust him to do it, and they're going to continue to limit him. But also, hey, first off, he said he wanted his money back from Curtis. He getting the Eastern Motor commercials and everything. And Sean mentioned, of course, he has to stay healthy and got to produce. He doesn't have a real breakout season. That's valid. But yeah, man, I don't know, bro. And I don't want to, continue to scare people. That's not my intent. But I think if we ain't talking about, the fact that he ain't playing, he ain't participating in full practices, and I think that's kind of where we get into the whole issue of this thing. He said you can't even name him as a top 2 receiver like Twitter like Twitter wants. Yeah, man, so that's Curtis Samuel. Again, a quick hitting topic, man. We're not going to touch on that. I just wanted to put that to everybody's attention, man. That is something where it's like, god damn, like 2 practices already. Training camp just started. It just started, man. Okay, hey, let's go ahead and transition to the offensive line. Let me see if I still got those articles up. Yes, I do. Okay, so last show on Friday, we touched on the offensive line situation. We kind of broke it down in detail, like how Andrew Norwell, Charles Leno are getting those veteran days off, right? And Trey Turner he had exited practice early. Turns out Trey Turner has a quad injury. And then obviously Cornelius Lucas is still on the NFI list. So Washington has brought in Alex Akingbulu, and then tackle Rashad Hill. Both of them are tackles. So Alex Akingbulu and Rashad Hill, both are offensive tackles. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with the offensive line situation. Let's see if I got some more information. Rashad Hill is a 6'6", 300-pounder, UDFA in 2016 with the Jaguars, and has had quite a few practice squad situations. He's played 49 offensive snaps in the NFL. Not too good, apparently, from the articles that I'm reading. And then Alex Akingbulu, he's 24 years old. He came out of the USFL, so Washington snagged him, another USFL guy. He played with, who the hell was it? Birmingham Stallions, I think, or Philadelphia Stars. So he's had limited experience in terms of pro career, but yes, those are the 2 guys that they have. The starters right now is Charles Leno, Sam Cosmi. Cornelius Lucas is a veteran backup, but of course he's hurt. And then the rookie Alex Akingbulu, who hasn't had any NFL experience for real. So that's the situation that we're at. That's the situation that we're at with the offensive line, the tackles and stuff like that. So Okay, that's that. Let's go ahead and tap into. Let's answer this right quick. Let's answer this. In other news, why is everyone so high on Dotson? Like, I hope, and I have nothing to say bad about him, but damn, we can't wait for a handful of games. No, we can't. But really though, when it comes to J-Dot, yeah, 49 snaps in 5 years. That's crazy. But when it comes to J-Dot, I've been a proponent of J-Dot for a while. Probably since I did a pre-draft breakdown of Jahan Dotson, not even thinking that he was on Washington's radar until I found out that, you know, they actually liked him. But Jahan Dotson, man, I think that what people have been seeing in practice. Now, note, I want to make this abundantly clear. There's a sector of people that I trust with information. I've said this before, and I will continue to preach it. There's people that know football, like football, and then there's people who watch it in terms of like reporting things like such and such made a catch, such and such was open downfield, such and such made somebody miss. But then there's a sector of people who are like, I saw Jahan Dotson have fluidness in his routes. I saw Jahan Dotson have a wherewithal to attack defensive back techniques. I know he knows where his depth is. He knows how to get to a certain route and create separation. I seen him high point of football. He has different skill sets in terms of over the shoulder tracking ability. All of these other things, that's the side that I trust. That's the side that I trust. And also I do that as well. So when I say Jahan Dotson and why everyone is so high on Jahan Dotson, what I saw before he got drafted is what happened in minicamp and what was reported in minicamp in terms of his ability to understand in like a nuanced route running fashion how to get open. He has different techniques in his toolbox. Like, he has a whole bunch of other things and knows how to get open. And I think that's something that should be taken into account. Like, when you have certain nuanced packages as a rookie and you're making things work for you as a rookie, that is something that, you know, not many people coming into the league can really say that they did well. So that happened in minicamp, that happened in OTAs, all those things, right? And then you reach training camp, and while the important part is what I'm about to touch on, like the cons of what we're hearing. So it's like it's a give and take. The give is that he's still continuing to do what he did earlier in the year in training camp the first 4 or 5 days. The take is they ain't got no pads on yet. They ain't got no pads on yet. And when you don't have pads on, the issues and the concerns with that is that you know, there's limited contact. It's hard to really get your hands as a defensive back on Jahan Dotson because you don't have anything to grab onto. You don't have that contact area that's really making an impact in terms of his route running and ability to get downfield. You don't have all of these other components that can really tell you if what you're seeing in OTAs and minicamp in the first few days in training camp is legit. You don't know yet. So it's important to Sean's point about why is everybody so high on Dotson, to take all of these things into account. I believe in Jahan, but Sean is an excellent example of being cautiously optimistic. That's an excellent example, and I'm willing to wait, but I'm willing also to bet that guy is going to make tons of plays for Washington. I've said it before on Twitter, and I'll say it on the live stream right now. I think that Jahan Dotson is how did I word this? Because I don't want to butcher it. I think he'll be more effective in this offense than Terry McLaurin. And I may have butchered my quote, but in due time, you all will see what I mean. And if I'm wrong, I'll explain it. But I think that he'll be more effective in this offense than than Terry McLaurin in terms of usage and targets and all of these things. So I just want you all to be aware of that. And if Curtis Samuel continues to get hurt, or let me not say that, if Curtis Samuel continues to be in and out of the lineup, you'll see even more. Yeah, he hope he's that guy. I mean, Terry said Terry was a gunner for yep. As long as Dotson outperforms Olave, I'm good. Hey, you got Dotson, Cole Turner. You got a few people out of that trade. So hey. Not like I expect us pressing the man at the line of scrimmage in practice or games. Anyways, we will see. Hey, yeah, you heard me. You heard me about that Terry thing. You heard it. Okay, so let me check in with my good guy. Hold on 1 second. All right, that's somebody else. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right, here we go. Hey, just checking back in, letting y'all know David Harrison will be joining us shortly. Checking in live from Ashburn, Virginia, with Everything Commanders, giving us his insight and nuggets on the Washington Commanders. Obviously, David Harrison out of Locked On podcast network for the Washington Commanders, and then Sports Illustrated as well, writing about the Washington Commanders. Okay. Lastly, right quick before we get into another segment, Sam Howell, quarterback 2. Is that a possibility right now? I'm gonna hold the floor and let you all talk about it. What do you all think about Sam Howell and his potential to be quarterback 2 off the rip? For me, coffee break. For me, I thought it was interesting that this was a topic. I think I came across this on maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. I can't remember what day it was. I want to say it was Friday, to be honest with you. I have seen what Sam Howell has done. I think it was 2 practices in a row. I have seen, meaning seen some of the tweets about what he's looked like, what he's seen from a intermediate standpoint, throwing dots. And I actually seen a couple clips of Sam Howell just throwing dots and hitting some of these receivers in the middle of the field. And I think he had a deep ball that was overthrown or dropped or something like that. But they said that you saw the deep ball ability from Sam Howell, making it look effortless and all these things. And out of these practices, it was the Friday practice. Out of these practices came out, Sam Howell needs to be quarterback 2. Now I've seen a couple predictions prior to training camp starting saying that Taylor Heinicke could be a surprise cut. And that's probably partially the reason why I wanted to bring this topic up to everybody. Oh yeah, bits and pieces on Turner. Yeah, we can talk about Turner. But yeah, I think when it comes to Taylor Heinicke and Sam Howell, it's important to note that early on, because these are 9-on-9s, and I think it's actually pretty smart to do it this way. And I think when the pads come on, it's going to be full 11-on-11 game scrimmages, and you'll be able to see a lot more how he reacts to real pressure. Excuse me, that was a mistake. How he reacts to pressure. Obviously, they're not going to be able to hit him, but he'll have a lot of traffic at his feet, like Kirk Cousins like to say, traffic at his feet, things like that. And I don't know to what degree we can really say that Sam Howell is quarterback 2 until he stacks these days up, first and foremost. But secondly, when preseason games start next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, when training camp or preseason games start for Sam Howell, are we in a position to really sit here and say that out of that first game, or maybe even that first game and the second game, that this is a guy worth keeping over Taylor, meaning we can move forward with 2 quarterbacks and cut Taylor? Because Taylor isn't going to move down to QB3. That's not going to happen. Plain and simple, that's not going to happen. You have a guy that knows the offense in Taylor Heinicke, has a year under his system, like a full season under his system in Taylor Heinicke, a year and a half technically, because he came in 2020, he came to the team. but in a sense, like, he has a full year of playing experience in this system. He can be a quick spot fill for a possible injury in Carson Wentz, who has actually missed time over the years. So like, that's a legit possibility. Last year he actually played with 2 bad ankles and I think played a full season, but injuries nonetheless, he just played through it. Can you say that Sam Howell can be a quick spot fill? Like, these are all questions that you have to get answered before you sit here and say, out of 1 training camp practice or out of 2 training camp practices, that this is the guy that I want moving forward. It's plain and simple. I don't know if you can really sit here and say that right now. It's only been 2 days in which there's been notes on Sam Howell in terms of good. Because there was a whole practice where all the quarterbacks sucked. Matter of fact, it was Thursday. It was a Thursday practice. Because we talked about how good the defense looked against the quarterbacks, but also against the offensive line, who was in flux. So all 3 quarterbacks sucked that day. And then it just so happened that everybody saw the one practice that Sam Howell looked good and all of the other quarterbacks looked good as well. So it's important to kind of see how those days stack for Sam Howell. I like the product of Sam Howell. I like that he was able to switch up his game from 2020 to 2021. 2020, we saw him with all of these weapons, all of this talent, NFL talent that ended up ultimately getting drafted and going to the league in various rounds. They weren't all first round talents. But you saw the situation with Sam Howell in 2020 and how he was able to be an effective passer, throwing on all areas of the field, giving opportunities to his playmakers. And then in 2021, they completely changed up the game plan for Sam Howell because they lost so much. And from a person who didn't run as much, I don't even know if he had over 300 rushing yards in 2020. I don't even know if he had over 300 rushing yards in his career prior to 2021. But the man ran for 800 yards in 2021, and people were saying that he lost it. I mean, you are a 5th round prospect for a reason, but for a person in an offense to completely change up their game plan and ask him to do more from an overall standpoint, it shows you that he's capable of adjusting. And I think in the NFL, a person like him has the wherewithal and the ability to understand what his situation is and maybe understand what's best for an offense. And that's where I'm getting at. Sam Howell has that potential. Can he put it all together from a mental standpoint? Because it's not easy. It's not always easy for rookies. But can he put together from a mental standpoint and overcome this 5'11", 6 feet frame to get things done? Because obviously Taylor Heineke is in that same boat. And there's other quarterbacks in that same boat, but guess what? Most of those quarterbacks who are effective are Russell Wilson and Drew Brees, and there's not many like those. Kyler Murray, I mean, look, if you got an elite athlete at quarterback, that's a different thing. So yeah, man, I don't know about Sam Howell being quarterback number 2 just yet. I think the biggest indicator for Sam Howell, if you want to see, or if you want to legitimately jump the gun and have a conversation about that, will come preseason. What week is that? I think first game is Carolina, preseason game. So like, how those things stack up in the games. Like, if he looks legit, like, you can't deny. That's what happens when you drink a lot of coffee in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. But look, you can't deny elite talent. Like, it shows itself no matter what round it's in, right? Like, let's see. The biggest example and the easiest example for the sake of this conversation is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, I will never forget this because I loved Russell Wilson coming out of Wisconsin in that draft. And I really wanted, it hurt my heart to hear that Mike Shanahan wanted Russell Wilson prior to making that trade for RG3. Like, we know the ins and outs of that one, right? Obviously, that was an ownership thing as well as Shanahan being on board. But one of his contingency plans was drafting Russell Wilson. And it hurt my heart to hear that Russell Wilson was a target and we didn't get him. He went to the 3rd round and ultimately getting selected by Seattle. But in that draft, I knew Russell Wilson was a dog and he was being slept on. In the preseason, backtrack. They signed Matt Flynn that year to a big money deal. The Seattle Seahawks did, thinking that was going to be the starter for the future. That 40-point game that he put up at the end of the season against the Detroit Lions in the snow solidified everything because he threw 6 touchdowns. So, of course, he was going to go get that money, right? But then fast forward to the preseason, you see Russell Wilson just dominating in the preseason, like taking over in the sense that, like, it's hard. I don't care how much money Matt Flynn makes. It's hard to sit here and say, I'm going to keep that man, Russell Wilson, on the bench. Russell Wilson was that much of a dog at 6 feet, making plays with his legs, making plays with his arms, an undeniable talent. And I say that to convert back to Sam Howell. It's the last thing I'm going to say on Sam Howell. When you're in a situation like him, and you're in a situation where Sam Howell is that 5th round talent, he's not expected to do anything. There's not that much pressure on him. All you have to do is come in, do your own thing, be comfortable, make your plays. Things will come to you. But if you are that good, if you are that elite, from a quarterback who was projected a 1st round talent in 2020, but came back to the North Carolina Tar Heels in 2021, if you are that good, it's hard for you to be denied. It's hard for anybody to sit here and say, hey, we got to keep that man at 3rd string. You will be quickly elevated. Taylor Heineke will be an afterthought because you're a dog. If you are a dog, it's hard for somebody to sit here and keep you on the bench. And that's why I went back to Russell Wilson, man. It's hard for anybody to sit here and say, we had to keep him on the we got to keep him on the bench because we got a big money quarterback ahead of him and Matt Flynn. Seattle Seahawks were smart, man. They were proactive. And I appreciate the hell out of them for making something that easy and that simple for their organization. Like, that's kind of how I treat that. That's kind of how I treat that, man. And I love it. So, yeah. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and transition to some of the next topics. I want to be clear. Well, actually, let me go ahead and get through the reminder. If you are new to the Chopper Dive, make sure you are following on Twitch or subscribed on YouTube. It does help the show's growth. It is appreciated. If you like the show, you want to make sure that you share it, man. Help us smaller guys. I'm trying to get to 1K on YouTube, man. That's equivalent to like Twitch affiliate or something like that for those who are watching on Twitch. And in that same vein, man, if we can get to 1K before the season starts, 1,000 subscribers, I'm not too far away on YouTube, but if we can get to 1,000 subscribers, man, it's going to be major, man. I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Appreciate everybody who supports the channel, man. I don't believe in anybody having fans, man. It's all about support, and everybody enjoys what they support, so it's always appreciated if you can get that share. It can be simply tweeting out the show. It can be simply sharing it with a friend in a text message. It could be whatever. All those things, man, is truly appreciated. So yes, soon I will be opening up the floor to the viewers. The StreamYard link is in the actually, I may have time. Let me check, because I don't hear nothing right now. It's pretty quiet. Okay, so I will be opening up the show to the viewers. We can do that right now. But just a heads up for those who are just checking in, David Harrison of Sports Illustrated and the Locked On Commanders, he will be joining us live at training camp, live at Ashburn, to give his quick nuggets, quick thoughts on the Commanders training camp and some news and observations that he has on his side. So let me go ahead and yo, what's going on? All right, here we go. Hold on. Let's see. All right, there we go. So I just put the link in there. I'm opening up the floor to anybody and everybody that wants to join, man, and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, all things related to the Washington Commanders. And then heads up, when David hops on, I'll just put y'all on the backstage, and we can talk with David Harrison, and maybe we can get one question or two questions out the way from anybody who's interested in learning something specifically from David Harrison. We can get like one or two questions from you all as well. So just a heads up, link is in the chat. Hey, my bad, Harsh. I meant to shout you out. I hope all is well with you, big dog. What's going on with you this Monday morning? OG said he wants to start every game with a bomb. You sound like my dad, bro. Hey, let me tell y'all about my dad. My dad growing up, my dad was hilarious with the Skins, because we're all Skins fans. I'm from the DMV area. I'm from DC, PG County, migrated back and forth all the time with that stuff. So, but all my family outside of my sister and my close cousin are Skins fans. And every game when I would watch when I would watch games with my dad, and even when I'm not watching games with my dad, he will pop up. He will pop up in the how do I make sure? Okay. My bad, y'all. I know I just paused out of nowhere. Okay. He will make sure that he will make it his mission to tell me he don't care what anybody or what Washington does or how the game is going. He's like, F it, go deep. He's like, F it, go deep. I don't care what we doing. He say, if we losing, he said, the reason why we losing, man, is we ain't go deep yet. They just need to go deep. And that was his go-to for anything Washington. If they were losing, if they were up 50 points, he say, F it, go deep. That's just his solution. But yeah, man, Richard had a good question in here. So let me actually go around the league right quick, man, because I want to talk to you about some things before we tap back into the Commanders. So, do y'all hear about the training camp fights in the NFL? Make sure. The training camp fights in the NFL. Did y'all see the Josh Allen situation? Why is Dakota screaming downstairs? Did y'all hear about this some of these training camp fights? Why is she barking? Some of these training camp fights are ridiculous. And they need to also stop using the word fights. Let me share y'all what I saw yesterday that kind of had me protrude. I like using that word. Let me make sure it's shared. Okay, we can see it. Let me remove the thing right here. This is crazy. Oh, hold on.
Not that bad, but the look.
Oh my goodness.
Look, why are they jumping on the pile though? What does that serve?
Whoa! What the hell?
Josh Allen got into a fight at the end of practice with 6'6", 341-pound Jordan Phillips. Is that what we call him, the fight nowadays? I wouldn't constitute that as a fight. That's first off, I think one of the worst things that people can do to hype up their own content is sit here and say that something as simple as a shove is a fight. Now, what's closer to a fight is this one. Let me stop sharing that and share this one. Okay, go back to this one. All right, share. Ladies and gentlemen, too, appreciate y'all checking in. Just a heads up, we're just going around the league right quick with some other topics before we get back into Commanders camp. There are some news and nuggets. We will be touching on Duron Payne, the actual nugget next that people are allowing to go under the radar. And I think it's very important that we talk about Duron Payne, a nugget. And in the meantime, we are waiting on the good man, David Harrison of Locked On Commanders and Sports Illustrated to check in and give us his insight on everything Commanders moving forward. So let's go ahead, and I think we're done with the Josh Allen one. Oh yeah, here we go. Right here. All right. This one is more of a fight than the Josh Allen one.
Damn, I got that. Oh, gee. Damn, I got that. Damn.
Or so it seems. Or so it seems, right? Like, so apparently this is he's reading right here. Shane Lummox tackled Dexter Lawrence after a play and then Leonard Williams came over and took Lennox down and pinned him to the ground. So this was more of a civilized fight, but a fight nonetheless at a training camp. So there's a difference in fights. This is like another thing too, because he's the Kleiman guy, whoever he is, man. I just think this is important for us to sit here and actually talk about what a fight is. And this has nothing. There's no punches being thrown. They're smarter. Like, NFL players are smart. They're not going to hurt their own. They're not going to hurt themselves. They're not going to hurt their teammates. They're all trying to make it through camp. And I think it's funny how things like this is advertised, right? But moving on from fights, let's go ahead and get into something more interesting. Stop sharing this one. Get away from that. Let's get into Kyle Hamilton. Let me set this one up first, though. I got to set it up first. I don't know if anybody saw this tweet just yet. And I got to make sure I show you all this one. All right, here we go. Boom. Oh, wrong one. All right. Man is getting cooked on the app right now. Man is getting cooked on the app right now. And this is the play.
Who? What number? Who? What number?
Hey, Kyle Hamilton, man, one of the guys that Washington fans wanted too. Let's not forget that part. Kyle Hamilton was on the radar for a lot of Washington fans. And I don't want to be the person that slices one-on-ones, but I just wanted to put it out there that I don't think he had a plan at the line. Like, looking at this, I don't think he had a... I'm going to go back, Richard, because I want to make sure we touch on Cole Turner. But Hart said, I'm glad we didn't take him. I don't like, he's faking a jam at the line of scrimmage, and either you're going to do it or you aren't. Like, I don't know if he thought that was supposed to scare the running back. I think that is, like, he's an undrafted guy too. Number 29 is, I don't know his name, but I just saw him in the comments. They're talking about an undrafted guy. But for Kyle Hamilton to come up there and actually, fake a jam and then get cooked after that, I don't think he had a plan at all. I think he thought that, his name and reputation was going to scare 29 alone, and apparently he saw him at the line, but 29 pressed on and beat him with ease. That's like 7-8 yards of separation. So the only thing I would take away from this situation is not Kyle Hamilton really getting beat. It's more so, don't underestimate anybody that you face at the line of scrimmage, because they will cook your ass. They're in the league too. They fighting for a roster spot, just like majority of NFL players, the bottom end NFL players are around the league. So he's trying to make a name for himself. Why would he be scared of you? Think about that. I don't care if you're a first round talent or not. Why would he be scared of you? And then F that. I had Drake London and Tua Tagovailoa. I'm gonna butcher his name every single time, and that's not fair to him. But Tua had a deep bomb to Tyreek Hill that actually looked really good, and Drake London still cooking in the NFL, but unfortunately his quarterback is continuing to underthrow him. I wish I knew who the quarterback was, but Drake London making plays. That's my guy. That's my wide receiver one coming out of this. I think he was number 3. I ain't gonna slice it. I think it was Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, and then Drake London for me. But Drake London, still dogging that camp. Still catching underthrown balls. But it is what it is. All right. Let's go ahead and get back to the Washington Commanders. Okay. So, the Duron Payne nugget. And I wish that I can give the proper credit. I apologize in advance because you never know who's watching. So I apologize in advance because I may give the credit to the wrong person. And I am sorry if this is not the person who reported this. but I believe it was on John Kime's podcast. The Duron Payne nugget that's going under the radar right now. We understand that he's on his 5th-year option. He's on his 5th-year deal. He got extended for that 1 year. And then upcoming in 2023, he's a free agent unless Washington decides to tag him or extend him. But Washington wants to re-sign Duron Payne. And they have plans to re-sign Duron Payne. The most obvious issues that got and gets in the way of that happening is the Wentz trade and the Terry deal. It made priorities back like for Duron Payne. And I'm gonna put this back up here before I forget about Cole Turner. So priorities change, but the intent and the want to is still there. Now, I think this is an important nugget because it works for the defense. It works for, let me exit out of some things. Okay, here we go. It works for some, for how they want to structure their defensive line and things like that. So, look, Montez Sweat, he is getting his 5th-year option next year. So you have another year for him. And then you have Chase Young the year after that. So you have 5th-year options coming up for all these guys. If you wanted to tag Duron Payne, that would be one idea. Like, you don't have to worry about that now with Terry because he signed an extension. Think about anybody else that's worth tagging on this roster. It would be Cole Turner. Look at that, Cole Turner. Cole Holcomb. Like, you can tag Cole Holcomb if you don't know what he can do for you in terms of like solidifying that middle linebacker role, which, by the way, is still under evaluation. They said they're going to give it like 2 weeks before making a decision in training camp. So you never know how they really feel about Cole Turner. I keep saying that. Cole Holcomb, you don't know how they feel about him yet. He will get majority of the playing time along with somebody else that they bring in if they do decide that Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis aren't getting it done the way they want it to. But back to franchise tagging and these options. What's going on, Hawk? What's going on, big dog? And then yes, Richard Molly. So yeah, we talked about Cole Holcomb. I think that's the thing right there. It really comes down to either Cole Holcomb or Duron Payne in terms of being tagged. But back to that defensive line, you don't have to worry about Matt Ioannidis because he was on a 3-year deal, and I think he was entering his last year on his contract. You don't have to worry about Tim Settle. And I think those are some things that you have to, take into account with the franchise tag option. So again, when Washington says they have plans to re-sign him, they wanted to re-sign him and has plans to try to do that, try to get that done. It works for the offensive line, the defensive line from a standpoint of contractual years and them running together. Eventually they will get cap space next year after this Wentz single season $28 million is off the books. Like, once that's done, you'll have opportunity to keep Duron Payne on this team. And I think, honestly, one of these issues or one of these situations with that defensive line, I think Duron Payne is actually, it's a good fit for this defense, obviously, right? But if you can keep this nucleus together for as long as possible, why not try? Like, you have a starting point with your receivers. You don't have nobody that you have to re-sign no time soon at the receiver position. Cam Sims, I believe, no, who was it? Damn, I'm drawing a blank. No, wait, Cam Sims did come back on a 1-year deal, right? It was Cam Sims I'm thinking of. Cam Sims, I think, came back on a 1-year deal. So if he has some form of a breakout, they'll try to extend him to a multi-year deal, or maybe even do 1 year's continuous, unless he finds a home elsewhere for more money and a longer deal that's safer for him. But you don't have much to worry about at the receiver position. You have majority of your tight ends locked down because they're under rookie contracts. Logan Thomas is the only one that's a veteran, but also in a situation where you don't have to re-sign him until like 2024. What else? If you want to restructure Carson Wentz deal, he's technically under the 3-year deal, but if you want to restructure, he's still on the roster. Antonio Gibson, you ain't franchising a running back. You ain't going to franchise tag no running back. So I think, again, when you want to keep that nucleus together, back to Duron Payne, the situation with him is that you can afford to keep him. You can afford to pay him whatever money that you see fit for whichever term that you see fit. 3 years, 5 years, however you want to phase it. But there's room to get that done. And I think when we talk about him being traded, like they've fielded trade offers or they've heard trade offers come in, but they've turned them down. Think about that. Why are they turning that down? Why are they turning trade offers down for Duron Payne when seemingly he's on his last year, and seemingly, again, these are all exaggerate, like quote unquotes, like seemingly frustrated with his situation, his contract situation. He wouldn't do that. The team wouldn't keep him if they think that there's value in getting rid of him. He's an important part for the 2022 defense, but he's also potentially an important part moving forward too. And I think people got to take that part into account. And that's kind of what you have to take into consideration when people say they want to trade him or they should have traded him. Nah, it ain't about what they should have done. It's about the projecting what he can do for your defense in 2022, but also how you can structurally keep him on your roster from a contract standpoint and making everything work in that way. Okay, so do y'all want Payne? Like, I feel like he's a guy that works better at the 3 tech. They had him a lot at the 0 technique, and for those who are kind of new to that situation, they had him lined up over the nose in certain situations, and I don't think he played best playing 2 gaps. I don't think he's a shedder. I think he's really a block shedder in a sense. I think he plays and wins with quickness, being able to attack and penetrate gaps. I don't think he's a person where you're going to sit here and say he can take on double teams and successfully get rid of blockers in that regard as well. But I think that if he can win with quickness, I think being a 1 gap guy, being able to play from the 3 tech, which is between the guard and the tackle, I think if you can do that for him. Okay. Sorry, I just got a message from David Harrison. He's about to be joining us shortly. But yeah, back to Duron. If y'all are a fan of him, let me know if y'all want him on the team in terms of long term. Right? I know some people feel in terms of him getting traded, so that would be an interesting nugget if they can actually keep him moving forward. But yes, while we wait, 'cause I didn't forget, thank God. While we wait on David Harrison, let's talk about Cole Turner for a quick second. What do y'all think Cole Turner is going to do for the offense this year? Let's see. For me, Payne is like 22. Log him in. Yeah, matter of fact, how old is Payne? That's actually a good. How old is he? He is young as hell though. Can they stop? Bro, what the hell is going on with Pro Football Reference? My bad, y'all. I'm trying to see how old Duron Payne is, and Pro Football Reference is killing me with these pop-up ads. Yeah, Payne is. Oh damn, he is 24. He's 24. Hell yeah, he young as hell. All right. So Hart says similar to what Goddard did in his rookie year with the Eagles. Okay, how did Goddard do? Let's take a look at how Goddard did his rookie year with the Eagles. 'Cause that may be an interesting comparison. How the hell? Dallas Goddard rookie year. Ooh, okay. So his rookie year, Dallas Goddard, 44 targets, 33 receptions, 334 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I actually think that's a fair number. I think that's a fair number for Let me go back to the question. What do y'all think Cole Turner is going to do this year? Harsh says similar to what Goddard did his rookie year with the Eagles. That's 33 catches, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns for Dallas Goedert. And then Hawk says Cole Holcomb. Okay. Let's go with Cole Hogan right quick. I think Cole should play the outside backer position along with David. Jamin Davis. To me, I don't see Brian Urlacher or even Teddy Bruschi when I see Holcomb. Hell nah. First off, Cole Holcomb is too small. He ain't fitting that mold. He ain't fitting no Brian Urlacher mold or even Teddy Bruschi and Cole Holcomb. So yeah, I mean, to that degree, you're right. But I guess it depends. Like, they want to give him that shot. They said that they saw something in Cole when they did their end of the year evaluations. So maybe that means something to them, right? Who knows? It was an interesting change up from them saying that they needed a middle linebacker to them convincing themselves that they wanted Cole to give it a shot. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. In terms of me, where do we see Cole Holcomb this year? I think it's an interesting question because I touched on this actually Friday. It's an interesting question because it all depends on where Logan Thomas goes. Like, if Logan Thomas is in a situation where he ain't going to be ready week 1, even though, again, I like to preach that he is committed to trying to get that 1 year or that week 1 return. I don't know. It's quite interesting. But I don't think Logan Thomas is going to really come back week 1, especially with the situation that he's dealing with. And then the injury when he sustained it. And that also circles back to Cole Turner. I think Cole Turner is the guy that's going to be Logan Thomas-esque in this offense. He's going to be the guy running the wide receiver routes. Specifically, what I mean is like lined up outside, lined up in the slot, the big slot, red zone threat, true red zone threat, being able to run vertically, like running the corner routes, running some intermediate routes. Maybe even touch downfield. I don't think he'll be able to go downfield often, but I don't think they'll be hesitant to run him downfield. So I think that's kind of the situation with Logan Thomas and Cole Turner, because John Bates ain't going to be able to do it. And I think it's a good idea to kind of bring up the fact now with this conversation. Cole Turner had their first red zone action, I believe, on Saturday. And on Saturday, Cole Turner had 2 touchdowns in the red zone. So I think that's kind of where, let me go ahead down here. Ooh, that's a strong claim. Okay. Best year for tight ends in Washington. Bates, Turner, at least 2 UDFAs. Tight end group crazy. Turner is the future of 3rd and goal. Hey, but yeah, that red zone, Harsh remembers. That's what they were talking about. Cole Turner got a couple touchdowns in the red zone Saturday, so I think his money is 40 and in, 40 yards and in for an offense like Washington, because like when I talk about those deep level routes or going downfield vertically, I think 40 and in is where his money's gonna be made, because he doesn't have to run too far. So like he can stretch the field in that area. He can be a major threat for the offense. I think that's the important part when it comes to Cole Turner, is understanding where he's most effective early on. And I think John Bates will be able to handle the rest. Obviously, they need a 3rd tight end, but if we're talking about Cole Turner specifically, it's about what he can do. And for me, statistically, again, it all depends on where Logan Thomas is at. But assuming Logan Thomas misses a couple games, and Cole Turner is going to be able to actually get himself on the field to show that he can play in the NFL, you're probably looking at a guy with probably like that 30 catch season. But I think his average is probably going to be a little bit higher than Dallas Goedert. Like Dallas had 10 yards of reception. For Cole, you're probably looking at like 12 or 13, which is a pretty significant difference from 10 yards. But 12 or 13, being able to get down the field vertically is probably something that you can really trust with Cole and what Scott Turner wants to do for a Cole Turner. So Harsh mentioned that, you know, he has a knack for finding a soft spot in the zone. I actually think in his route running setups, like his double moves, all these other opportunities is kind of what gets Cole Turner open. And his route running, because he was a former receiver, he knows how to do these things. But let's pause the situation. Let's go ahead and get the good man, David Harrison, in this thing. Let me go ahead and pause my music right quick. Boom, there we go. And then let's go ahead and hide that. There we go. Brian Banners. Hold on 1 second. How do I get this thing? Boom. Now we healthy. Now we got the good man, David Harrison, again, the Sports Illustrated and Locked On Commanders joining us. David, man, first off, good speaking with you. How are you? How is your first season of Commanders training camp going for you? All those good things, man. Let's check in. Let's check in with one another right quick, man. How you feeling?
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me on first and foremost. It's loving it out here. You know, the weather looks nice today. Coming in, there was a good amount of fans lined up outside the gate ready to come in. So hopefully we'll have an exciting day, an active day of practice here as we get week 2 going.
Absolutely. And for everybody that is in the stream right now, I'm going to post the link. If you all want to ask David a question, you all can do that. Or if you just want to sit in the comments and ask the question, we can also pop it up that way. But David, let's start macro. Overall observations. You can take this whichever way you want to go. What are you seeing? What is something that stands out to you? What is something that the coaches are saying that maybe caught your eye? I'll give the floor to you. You can let the people know some observations.
You know, a lot of good energy so far, and you know, and that's something that I think a lot of people at home would kind of say, well, yeah, you know, that's what you should have. But believe me, there are practices across the league right now. Some of them don't have quite the positive level of energy that you're seeing out here in Ashburn. So it's definitely an upside thing. And you can kind of see, you know, a lot of times the questions come up is, you know, does all the off-field drama and all the other situations surrounding the franchise really impact the team and the rosters? And several players have already kind of gone on record saying that, you know, they don't pay attention to that stuff. And on the field here, you can tell that this is a unit that's just focused on the business that they have to worry about and let the rest of itself work out as it's going to.
So for offense or defense, I think it's important. Like when people are at camps, it's hard to like capture everything, every unit in a particular day. And for you, David,
Correct.
before we kind of figure out which angle to go, which side of the ball has caught your attention the most during your time down at training camp?
The defense has. They're definitely talking.
Defense.
They're definitely communicating, playing fast, and that's something that, you know, to a T. You know, you hear Bobby McCain talk about how they're all on the same page a little bit better this year, having some experience together, and coming in. William Jackson, you know, at the end of last week, talking about getting his swagger back and feeling more confident. And again, every time there's a play on the practice field, whether it's team drills, whether it's individual drills, they're practicing communicating, they're practicing getting lined up properly, they're making the reads as they see them and communicating. So as exciting as the offense can be, the defense has definitely been one of the more active parts of the practices so far.
Now, speaking of that defense, because I had talked about this on the first morning show came out on last Friday, and one of the situations that we talked about in particular was about the communication, like you said, with Bobby McCain, but also understanding what they were doing up front and marrying that together, and understanding that the defensive line quite had a day on Thursday. They dominated up front, but I think the issue in that instance was also to do with some of the offensive line shuffling and creating those things. But in terms of the defensive unit by itself, were you able to kind of take notice on your side, the fact that they were playing a little bit more sound together? They understood the assignments from the front end to the back end. I kind of want to get into that. Like, how do you think that they're doing? Like, is the words that they're saying in the press conferences matching what you're seeing on the field?
Yeah, for the most part so far. You know, the front line definitely looks to be a little bit more in sync than I think the last time we saw them, and that's a key to communication, but also just kind of being more comfortable with each other and holding each other accountable. You know, Jonathan Allen has been kind of the quiet, stern leader that he's always been, but I think this year, maybe a little bit more than others, people are kind of following lockstep with his mentality and his approach a little bit more maybe than before, and that's helping out a lot. But again, until the pads come on, you know, it's really kind of hard to really fully tell because the offensive players don't quite have the full arsenal of what they have at their disposal typically to prevent a pass rush from getting through. But on the back end of things, the secondary, some of the miscommunication issues that we saw last season throughout the year, some of the missteps, some of the blown assignments, these receivers and tight ends and Carson Wentz and some of the other quarterbacks even have made some very solid plays for themselves. But typically it's because they beat the defense, not because the defense was just giving something up.
All right. So before we transition to the offense, my guy Harsh has a question for you. We're going to go ahead and get into one player on defense that you think has stood out to you. I'll just leave the floor open like that. What's one player that stood out to you defensively, and then we can transition to the offense.
So far, Percy Butler, and to full disclosure, part of that's because I came in intending to watch him. I don't think he's gonna be stealing team one reps or anything once the regular season gets going outside of some rotational snaps and things like that. But as a second team guy and as a solid depth guy, he looks really fast. He looks really confident. And honestly, if you didn't know, that you were coming here to watch a rookie, he wouldn't stand out as a new guy on the field. He definitely looks comfortable in NFL defense and knowing what his assignments are.
All right. So Harsh has a question for us. And for you, David, he said, has Wentz been taking the layup throws, check downs? What have you been seeing from Wentz? And also, has he been making things easier on himself as far as you know?
From Carson Wentz, is that the question? You kind of broke up a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll repeat it. No worries. So Harsh asked, has Carson Wentz been taking the layup throws / check downs? Has he been making things easier on himself offensively and what he's seeing?
From Carson, what you're breaking up a little bit, so I'm gonna answer the question the best I think that you're asking. Carson's definitely trying to read the field as fast as he can. You know what I mean? But he's also very cognizant of not just making the wrong read just to make a read, and I think that's important in this phase. Obviously, when the bullets are live and when the games count, you want to see him make those quick decisions and make those quick reads. But something that Ron Rivera kind of mentioned, and even some of the defenders, Bobby McCain kind of talked about the advantage the defense has right now because there's no game plan. The offense doesn't have any tendencies to know about, to work off of, or to expect. So for an offensive player, for a quarterback especially, really as soon as the ball snaps, you're seeing the field for the first time, and there's no anticipation of what you're about to see before the snaps. So for Carson, I think it's important that as he's going through his reads, that he's looking to make the smart decision, not the fastest decision. And I think that's important given some of his history and some of the things that led to him being on his third team in 13 months and all that.
So before you joined, there was a question about, and by the way, just to make sure, am I a little bit clearer for you now too?
Right now, yes. Yep.
Okay. So Cole Turner was a topic right before you joined in, and we understand that he had himself quite a day, at least in the red zone on Saturday. But in terms of any observations on Cole Turner and just the overall receiving core collectively, receivers and tight ends, we can start with Cole Turner and then expand it. But what's your thoughts on Cole Turner, and also what is the receiver core looking like in general?
Yeah, Cole Turner's look great. I mean, especially as a fifth round tight end, he's everything that you could want. And the tight ends themselves had a day on Saturday to wrap up week one. Cole Turner, Samus Reyes got involved. Curtis Hodges got involved. So it was a very good week. Again, a lot of the questions around some of these younger guys, especially guys like Samus, Curtis, and even Cole is going to be blocking. So when the pads come on again, that you're going to see a whole other dimension to their game. But as far as receivers concerned, they're definitely showing up and putting some good things on tape. And the wide receivers, last Saturday, not the greatest end to week one of training camp. I don't think for those guys, they would expect more of themselves. Terry McLaurin had a drop. Jahan Dotson had a miscommunication with Carson Wentz. De'Ami Brown had a drop as well. So there were some issues there. But, I mean, at the same time, Kane and Kendall Fuller each at different points had really good, solid defensive plays where they closed on a route and then came in and punched the ball out as the ball arrived too. So, the defense is still getting out there and earning their money as well. But, I mean, it's still, so one of my favorite things to do is watch Terry McLaurin run routes, and every once in a while I have to remind myself that there's more to see on the field because I'll catch myself just watching number 17 work. And there was a ref that didn't produce yardage, unfortunately, for him because Carson's reads started on the opposite side of the field. But I wrote about it on thatside.com that Terry came off the line with an inside move, spun William Jackson around, came up, stacked him, and broke outside. And I mean, it was just an amazing route to see. I think I talked to you about it on Twitter, and wish I could have had it on film because you guys would have loved seeing it. But number 17 is.
Oh, it must be some things going down at Ashburn. Look, so we'll wait it out for a second on David Harrison, because I know sometimes connection can be rough, especially if you're not like in a central area to kind of get things done like that. So I did see a couple of questions and comments like, where does the rookies and free agents stay, dorms or renting apartments when you're in Ashburn? So to help you out with this one, if you're in Ashburn, you're just really going home to wherever it is your home is. When they were in Richmond, the situation in Richmond was much different. They would be staying at a hotel. The hotel, I forgot the name of it, really doesn't matter, but hotel is where you are busing, and it's somewhat like a dorm in that instance. You're busing to and from practice. There are scheduled pickups that takes you to the bus. I mean, it takes you to Richmond, takes you to the facilities and things like that. But when you're in a situation and okay. I'm talking to David Harrison right quick, just let him know everything's straight. I'm only one person, so sometimes I gotta take a pause and take care of these things, but give me 2 seconds. Yeah. All right. Okay. So David is unable to reconnect to StreamYard, so it's all good. No worries. Let's go ahead and get back to the show. David Harrison is my guy, man. I appreciate a lot of the work that he does. I appreciate the information that he provides. So yeah, David Harrison was able to share a little bit of his situation, and what he was saying. I really wanted to ask a little bit more questions, but I just wanted to shed light on some of his nuggets. But also, like, I think it's important when we hear these nuggets, for all of us that's in here listening, understand that, you know, these are given instances and moments of training camp, but it's never necessarily a set in stone situation. Like, for example, he talked about, and I'm not undermining what he's saying, I'm just highlighting that I don't want us to draw solid or concrete conclusions based on, you know, nuggets that we get from players. Nuggets that we get from reporters and all these other things. It's important to hear it, but it's also important to say, like, don't take it and run with it, right? But with that being said, David is always a good eye with things, and it's important to kind of hear what he's saying, but also wanted to tap into some of his concerns and things like that. But we just didn't have an opportunity to get there for that interview. But yeah, to AJ, to your question, quickly to wrap that one up and move forward. Yeah, they have hotels and situations that they stay out in Richmond. When Richmond was a thing, nowadays, now that they're in Ashburn, their home base, they're just back at home. They go back home after practice. They're with their family or wherever it is that they stay. Kerrigan, OG asked if Kerrigan had a terrible limp when walking, or he said he had a terrible limp when walking in the slow display. Does Chase Young have the same? OG, I did want to ask you, like, what did you mean by that? Because I was going to ask David, but I didn't want to butcher your question. I didn't know exactly what you meant by this one. Like, are you? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna lie to you, but just let me know what you meant so I can stash it and I can ask anybody. But remember though, he's not playing yet. And he's still recovering, so that is something to really take note of. But just let me know what you meant. I can stash the question and I can ask somebody else when we get somebody else on. But yeah, if y'all like that too, by the way, let me know something, because that is a plan throughout here. Morning shows are different, you know. It's easier. Excuse me, let me actually take that back. Sometimes it's different, like, to get people on in the afternoons and in the evenings, but it also is a scheduling thing that kind of makes things hard for live shows. So maybe if this is a good idea, you know, moving forward, we can try to get these guests on, which in truth, while I'm asking you all, it was never really going to stop me to attempt. I'll reach out to some of the people I know and we'll get some of these guests going on conversations and things like that. So, yes. So, Hawk asks, is it just me? But I wish Ryan Kerrigan would have played this year with us, then retire. I wish we had a vet at the DN position. Listen, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Kerrigan, y'all gonna hate me. I don't know. Maybe y'all won't. Maybe y'all see what I see. Outside of Hawk, but Hawk may hate me. I don't think Kerrigan had it. I don't think Kerrigan had it for like the last 3 years. I ain't gonna lie to you. This particular season, he said that, you know, he tried to give it a go, but his knee just wouldn't let him, and that's why he just ultimately decided to retire. He knew that was an issue back in 2021, and he gave it a go in 2022. He knew that was an issue in 2021, and he tried to give it a go this year, this offseason, and ramp it up. But when he tried to ramp it up, in turn, found out that, you know, it just wasn't a situation for him. I do agree that we wish we had a vet at the DM position, but I think that's where F.A. Obata comes in. And technically, if y'all think about it, Montez Sweat is a veteran at this point. He's going into year 4. He's a young guy. We have a young group, but I understand what you mean. You're talking about like that 28, 29-year-old defensive end that has like 6 or 7 years of experience. So I actually understand you to that degree, and I agree. But in terms of Ryan Kerrigan, I don't think he that guy no more, player. I really don't think he that guy no more. Yeah, he said he's making smart decisions. I think there's some mixed sentiments out there with Carson Wentz. And what I mean by that is I've heard some people say that he's had some good moments, but also had some of those low points where like his consistency isn't there from start to finish of a practice. He's never really he hasn't put together like a full practice that has been a consensus he's got it type of thing. Like they've seen the highs and lows of Carson Wentz. Now I don't know if that's just a formal matter of like telephone in a sense, like where you repeat the same thing that you're hearing and all of a sudden you believe it. I just want to put that out there, and that like it hasn't been all shiny with Carson Wentz, all gold. Like it hasn't been all pretty with Carson Wentz. So I wanted to get to that part with David Harrison as well too. Like there was some instances, like it's just hard and it's unfortunate. We had like 7 or 8 minutes with David, but we will definitely get him back on in a later morning show, and some other people as well, to talk some Commanders football. I used to see Ryan Kerrigan out and about in his regular life. He walked as if he had LeBron. But seriously, even though when he was healthy, he limped. Kerrigan was always solid, but he was slow. And you can see him not finish plays. I'm concerned Chase will be the same. Yes, actually harsh. Yes. Inaccuracy. Yes. That's what it was. He wasn't as accurate as he was like to start a practice to finish it. Like it just hasn't been a complete practice or complete showing for him in that regard. But yeah, man, Chase Young's situation may be a little different. You never know. Like ACLs are just different, man, and we can never really tell when a player feels 100% until like you start seeing them get back to their ways. Like if somebody's struggling, it may never necessarily be the fact that he's not that guy anymore, like, or that he was a bust. It can literally be an injury, like a mental aspect. Like they don't know how far they can really push that knee because they're nervous. They don't want to tear it again. And that's just some of the mental aspects that people go through with these ACL injuries. And Chase may not be the same, but then again, think on the bright side, he may come back just fine. And when you're a first round talent in Chase Young, the offense, the head coach is going to do whatever he can, and the organization is going to do whatever they can to make sure that you are 100% healthy for your future, like for your future time with the Commanders. Like it's not all about week one, that return from week one like RG3 did. It was never always about that. And in hindsight, you would have wished that they didn't rush him back, but they wanted to make a movie and a documentary about his comeback. But back to Chase Young. Everything's not always about returning to week one. And I think that's the best thing that Chase Young and his organization can do, is take his time. And I know it's going to be frustrating for us, people that's watching the team. And it's going to be frustrating for Chase Young, a person who wants to get back on the field. But I think it's smart for all parties involved to just be like, hey, man, if you don't feel like you can come back, until the middle of the season from a doctor standpoint. If you don't feel like he can come back to the middle of the season, we cool with that, because we want to make sure he's here for the long haul. So that's kind of where we are with Chase Young. But let's close out with Ryan Kerrigan, y'all. Let's close out with Ryan Kerrigan. Hey, Hawk, you brought up Kerrigan at a really good time, because we're trying to figure out how good was Ryan Kerrigan within his era. Think about the 2010 to 2020 decade. Don't worry about anything before that. Don't worry about anything after 2020. How good was Ryan Kerrigan within his era? So, the Purdue prospect spent 10 seasons, stealing this from CBS Sports, spent 10 seasons with Washington and was named to 4 Pro Bowls. Kerrigan became the all-time leader in sacks in his final season in 2020, leaving Washington with 95.5 sacks. He recorded double-digit sacks in 4 seasons, and then he played every game in his first 8 NFL seasons. Those are some quick accolades for Washington's or Ryan Kerrigan's time in Washington. But where did he rank for you? Where did he rank for you as an NFL pass rusher within his era? We can do weeks 1 through 6, weeks 1 through 10. We need him on the back half, then cool. Make sure he feels healthy. Make sure he can play. So Hawk said to him, Kerrigan is definitely a Ring of Fame player, but not a Hall of Fame player. Hey, so Hawk, take your time now. Tell us why. Let's hear why you don't think he's a Hall of Fame player for you. Okay. So let's get back to, how do I start? I want to see, actually. Oh, and one thing too, while I'm loading up Pro Football Reference for all of us, a reminder. Again, these are my ads. A reminder that if you are new to the Trapper Dive podcast, Trapper Dive channel, Trapper Dive on Twitch, make sure you are subscribed or following, man. It helps the show's growth. It is truly appreciated. I will be opening up the floor again to, here we go, anybody and everybody that wants to have a conversation about Ryan Kerrigan now. That's what we're on. We're going to close out with Ryan Kerrigan. If you want to have an argument for or against whatever the issue is, whatever, anything with Ryan Kerrigan, if you think he's a Hall of Fame player, why? If you don't think he's a Hall of Fame player, why? If you think he's number one in his era, why, etc. All those things, right? But yes, the floor is open. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat, the comments. But yes, again, like, subscribe, it's appreciated, man. Even sharing it is appreciated. Get the word out, help everybody understand that we got some things going on at the Trapper Dive YouTube, the Trapper Dive Twitch, man. It's definitely appreciated. So yeah, I'm saying, what you think about why he's not a Hall of Fame player. If you want to, you can elaborate if you want to. He said while football is a team sport, he had a lot of losing seasons. He said, OG said, is Sweat and Young the modern? Ooh. Orakpo and Kerrigan. Ooh. Hey, hold on. Let's go back. Let me share my screen. Now, I've been trying before I even got online to do the little tier thing, creating a tier maker, but that shit is hard. Like every time I create one, it always says I gotta do something else. I never did it before, so maybe it's just me not understanding and me being a goddamn I forgot the word, but oh well, don't matter. All right, here we go. Let's go to defense. Let's go to, I know what to do. It's gonna take forever, but we're gonna get this done anyway. 19. Y'all gonna all right, here we go. 18, 17, 16. I know y'all can't see what I'm doing right now. Essentially what I'm doing is pulling up all of the 2010s seasons, and we're gonna bring it up like that and go year by year. We're gonna go year by year. 2014, so we can get a clean recollection of who Kerrigan was up against on a yearly basis in his era. And we're going to start with 2011 season. Now I say 2010s, but we're going to start by the time he was actually in the league. Okay, here we go. My football team sport. To how many seasons during his prime did he reach that over 10 sack mark? What also hurts him is that he played out of position because he did mostly play outside linebacker. That is a strong and valid point right there. Let's start with 20. Here we go. It's 2011. Boom. Share. So man. Okay. So move this, man. Sacks. Who was up there? Oh my God, who had 22 sacks? This had to be Jared Allen. Bro, why did stop showing this ad, bro? Not interested. What are they doing? All right, here we go. Sacks. Oh yeah, Jared Allen, DeMarcus Ware, Jason Babin. Who remembers Jason Babin, man? JPP was always cooking. Terrell Suggs was always cooking. Alden Smith was around for some time. But let's go down to Brian Rockwell had 9. Where is Kerrigan at? Kerrigan had 7.5 his rookie season, which is actually respectable. It's no issue. I think when we talk about too, by the way, when we talk about his impact, I think it's important when you talk about that out of position thing, right? It's also like who he stacked up against. As a pass rusher, like how are we going to categorize this? Are we going to say only edge rushers, or are we going to say pass rushers and like interior guys? Or are we going to talk about like certain techniques? I'm not going to get too specific. I'm gonna just say pass rushers in general. That's how I'm categorizing him. And over the years, he's had, again, he's going up against even Dwight Freeney's on this list at 31. He played until he was like 2016. He was just as effective. So Dwight Freeney's up there. I'm not saying I'm gonna list some guys that's actually just been impactful. Not necessarily. I'm not ranking them just yet. I'm just putting people who he's gonna be stacked up against. So again, Ryan Kerrigan had. Are we gonna count Julius in this era, or even OC? Are we gonna count OC? I would say okay. So I would officially say Calais Campbell, Dwight Freeney. How many years did Jared Allen play after that? 2011. Oh my God, 22. He led the league in 22 sacks at 29 years old. Man was in the league for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons at the time, and still cooked after that too. But anyway, Jared Allen, I don't necessarily, I would put him in the era, but I wouldn't necessarily say this was something that he was up against, because he retired in 2015 and he finished with 2 sacks in 2015. So 2022 is a lot for one season, but I wouldn't necessarily say he's really up against Jared Allen. So let's eliminate Jared. We're definitely going to keep. Oh Lord, we're definitely going to keep. Well, let's see DeMarcus. How long was DeMarcus in after? I know he retired like 2015, I think, right? 2016. Okay. Oh no! Oh my goodness, DeMarcus Ware was a dog. 2011, 15, 19. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we're not gonna keep DeMarcus in here either, because his prime was really up until 2012. So I'm gonna say we're gonna eliminate DeMarcus Ware. We're gonna go to I think Vaughn. And by the way, this is just his rookie season. We haven't even gotten into the other years. Like, this is just his rookie season. Okay. Actually, I just did all this when I could have just did. It's easier. Here we go. Okay. Let's go to 2012. Who do y'all think was better, Brian Orakpo or Ryan Kerrigan? Like career-wise, we're not talking about just in Washington. Who do y'all think was better? There you go, J.J. Watt. There you go. There go that dog right there. I told you we hadn't even gotten into the crux of the players. Like, he got in 2011, had 5.5 sacks, played 16 games. Came out and led the league. Led the league the next year. Second year in the league at 20.5 sacks. That's just ridiculous. Who do y'all think better though? Brian Orakpo or Ryan Kerrigan? Might be the Philip Rivers of pass rushers. Okay. So J.J. Watt, Von Miller, Clay Matthews. So that's 3 during his era. Remember, we're just talking about during his era. Who else? Mario is interesting. How long did Mario play after this? He played till he was 20 in 2016, 31. But he was 9. Okay. So I think his prime was like, technically he played till 2014. All right, so let's go ahead back to it. All right, so JJ, Vaughn. I don't want to count Alden because really Alden was done after like 5 or 6 years for real. But Clay Matthews for sure. We got 3 people that he's up against. And where is Ryan Kerrigan at that list? He had 27. 8.5. So his first 2 seasons, he had 7.5, 8.5. Let's go to 2013. Robert Mathis, a dog. Robert Quinn, a dog. Is Ryan Kerrigan better than Robert Quinn? What do y'all think? My bad. He said, I thought Rockwell was going to be a beast. Man, we all did. He got franchised in 2014 and put up 1 sack. Alden was definitely a dog. I remember my uncle always was yelling about how Rockwell could only bull rush. That's true. And you know what's the funny thing about that? Guess what all Ryan Kerrigan could do? All Ryan Kerrigan could do is bull rush. I think Kerrigan was a guy like, and what also enlightened me, and I'm going to give credit to Kerrigan in this instance because I always used to discredit him for this, is all he did was bull rush. I think what's important is that Jonathan Allen has said something over the weekend, and Jonathan Allen said that, you know, in the NFL, all you really need to do is have like, I mean, obviously a plan, like the bottom line is a plan, but if you can have one good move or have like find your move perfected and then have a counter, like that's all you need. You need to have one good move, have one counter, and then like move forward from there. So for Kerrigan, a guy like my main issue, like from a football standpoint, and I think when people talk about what Kerrigan could do for Washington, like Ring of Fame, cool. Like I ain't got nothing against that. Statistically, he earned it. Like there's no doubt about it. But from a play standpoint, there was times where he couldn't even beat tight ends in pass rush. Like there was times where he struggled against tight ends in pass rush. There were times where, like, and this is why I'm saying I will knock him in terms of his effectiveness, comparing him to other people around the league. Like I'm not discrediting him in terms of his ability overall, but in terms of the top tier elite pass rushers, like there was times where he disappeared throughout a season. Like, of course he racked up his numbers, but there was times where he made those sacks where they weren't important moments within a game. And that's kind of my memory of Ryan Kerrigan in terms of crunch time. Like he's made plays. Let's get that clear. Like I'm telling you all, he's made plays. He was impactful for Washington, but in terms of crunch time, like you're down X amount of points, you need your playmaker, your dog of an edge rusher to come in and make a play. I don't remember that for Ryan Kerrigan. He's had exciting moments, But in crunch time, like if you think about a Von Miller or Aaron Donald, or you think about JJ Watt coming in and closing out games, that is all I'm saying. Closing out games wasn't always, that was not under Ryan Kerrigan's tool belt. So that's where I'm getting at. So let's go ahead. Hawk said Alden was a dog for sure. And nope, I don't remember what the question was, but I think I asked if Robert Quinn was better than Ryan Kerrigan. Oh, yeah, there he goes. Robert Quinn is a way better player. So again, we're all talking about like how he ranks within his decade. So like while everybody's in here, like think about, as we're going through the years, think about where you would place him in terms of, and it's hard to really put a solid number, but like where would you rank him? Was he elite? Was he very good? Was he good? Was he average? Was he below average? How would you put it? Where would you place him? And I think that will kind of quantify a number, like put a number on it, versus actually looking like he was 5th best, 6th best. I think that'll kind of help us quantify like how good he really was. So Hawk says Kerrigan was not better than Robert Quinn. We're gonna keep going through this list, y'all. Junior Gillette. Who remembers that guy? Junior Gillette. Muhammad Wilkinson. That used to be my guy, man. I used to love playing with him in Madden. All right, what y'all think about the new Madden that's coming out too, by the way? Y'all about to get that? And what system if y'all getting it? Because I'm thinking about making my return, man. I used to stay on the Madden leagues. I love that shit. I ain't gonna lie to you. I used to stay on them Madden leagues, and if I get it, it's gonna be Madden and it's gonna be Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty that comes out. But talk to me, what y'all think about that new Madden? I'm gonna go to the next season right quick, 2014, so we can see who he's all stacked up against. Justin Houston. Ugh. Oh man, 22. How long was he in the league? I know he's still playing right now. That was his highlight. Damn, that was his highlight. I mean, 10 sacks is nothing to scoff at. Like 10, 11, 22, 11. So he had 11 just 3 years ago. Okay. So he made Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. I'll say, so Hawk says in the good to average category. OG says, is our facilities and equipment to blame for lack of success? I heard that college had better stuff than us. That's not a lie. In terms of like the sentiment, like college facilities has had better equipment. Washington was outdated for a very long time with their facilities. Like, remember, it took them years to get a bubble. Like they had no bubble to accommodate the players and coaches for inclement weather. Like some practices were rained out. It was hard to, or thunderstorms, like you couldn't play or practice in those. And it took them a long time to just get that situation sorted at Ashburn. So I don't think, if you're talking about team success, it could be one thing. Again, it's hard to really pinpoint what the issue could have been. I mean, obviously we know Dan Snyder sucks. We know that the team sucked for some time because there was just nothing, like there was no cohesion. There was very few leadership. There was very few leaders at leadership positions, at positions of leadership. There we go. I don't know why it took me some time to spit that out. So there's a lot of factors that goes into it, but I don't think it's to blame. I think it is a factor. So yeah, like sometimes you miss practice because you didn't have a bubble, and that happened for a long time. Okay. The late great Kevin Samuels would say Kerrigan's play on the field was an adjustable 6. Oh man. Damn, a Kevin Samuels reference on Ryan Kerrigan, man. Okay. He said watching as a whole is an adjustable 6, looking for a high value man. Hey, I never thought I'd see the day of a Kevin Samuel reference on a Commander show, bro. That is fucking hilarious, bro. A whole adjustable 6. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Okay. What'd he say? So you a fat fuck? My man was getting mad. He couldn't get no youngins, bruh. That man was mad that nobody liked him. He ain't even put himself. I don't think he was on camera, bruh. He asked that man to rate himself. He couldn't do it. It took Kevin Samuels to find out he was fat and they had no money, bruh. Hey, bruh. Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh, where am I at? My bad. All right, let's go back to it. This was the 2014 season. Okay, so Ryan Kerrigan, now he's creeping up in year 3. He's creeping up there. Now he's top 10, 13 and a half. He still has Von Miller in front of him, JJ Watt in front of him. JPP is right behind him at 12 and a half. Let's look at JPP's career for a quick second. And okay, so he got it in 2010. He wasn't that good. From a statistical standpoint, do y'all think he was a better pass rusher than Kerrigan? Like, do y'all think he had more moves and more things in his toolbox, or was he an individual that was a one-trick pony and wasn't really considered better than Ryan Kerrigan? What do you all think about that one? That's JPP. We already know. I already know. I'm not. Let me go back to the sacks. I already know Clay Matthews is better than Ryan Kerrigan. I don't think that. What is it? One All Pro. He got All Pro as a rookie, All Pro, and then Pro Bowl. I don't know. I may have to readjust my viewpoint on Clay Matthews. But I know he did make impact plays for the Packers throughout his career. From forced fumbles is where I'm getting at. And also his sacks. So I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and I'm gonna take back what I said and say, like, I think he was a undoubtedly better player than Kerrigan. I don't know. Maybe Kerrigan and Clay Matthews have more of a argument that they're on the same tier. Maybe. I don't know. Am I wrong? Am I tripping? Am I tripping? Oh, he says that JPP was more craftier than Kerrigan. Okay. With 7 fingers. It's the fact that I overlooked that at first. It's crazy though, because JPP went to Tampa Bay and was still producing. Like, we all thought that was gonna be the end all be all with him. 2015. JJ Watt. Oh, enter Khalil Mack. We didn't even get to Khalil Mack yet. I told you there was gonna be some players that pops up, and we're gonna sit here and wonder, you know, is Kerrigan better than this guy in his decade? Remember, everybody that just tuned in, I say remember, they don't even know. If you just tuned in, we're talking about, is Kerrigan, how did he rank in his decade, within his decade? It's hard to really put an exact number on it, but we're going to say, like, was he good? Was he very good? Was he elite? Was he average? Was he below average? And we're trying to figure that out, looking at some of the players that played within this era, some of the top sack leaders within this era. We've come across J. Watt multiple times. Some have said, my boy Hawk Time has said that JPP is a more craftier player. So while his sacks doesn't really add up, he had more in his toolbox as a pass rusher. So that was some things for JPP that we aren't taking into account, I guess. Okay. Nope. The Hawk said that Kerrigan, he actually didn't have any sacks in Philly. He only had 1.5. Matter of fact, let's go to it. I could tell you right quick before we go back. So in Philly, he didn't have any sacks. He played in all 16, but started in 2. But in the playoffs is where he got his money, because he started this game, had 1.5 sacks in a blowout loss again. So his sacks really came when they weren't necessarily in the game, but you know, with Tampa Bay passing all the time, that's kind of what he got. He ended up getting his 1.5 sacks on Tom Brady. So yes, that was his career in Philly. 0 sacks in the regular season, 3 total tackles, and then in the playoffs, 3 total tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 1 start for Philly. So that's the situation for him. He didn't really make it a name for himself out there, and ultimately led him to retiring. Okay. So let's go back. Let me check some of the comments. OG said is AJ Hawk overrated. I I mean, it's an interesting question, but he was a linebacker, inside linebacker, like Hawk TV mentioned. That's an inside linebacker. So, I don't know. I don't think he was really overrated. I actually thought he was a solid player for Green Bay. Just to answer your question, I think he was a solid player for Green Bay. He was a staple for that middle of the defense. Like it was another middle linebacker over there that was good in that 3-4 system, and I'm drawing a blank on. I think it was like Nick Barnett. I'm thinking. Let me Google and make sure I'm not tripping. Nick Barnett stats. Oh yeah, that's my guy. Nick Barnett. I think he played with AJ Hawk. So yeah. I didn't even know Nick Barnett played for Washington in 2013. Hey, that's wild. And he played 14 games. Yeah, Nick Barnett, man. That was my guy for a while too. I loved watching Nick Barnett play. But yeah, I think Nick Barnett and AJ Hawk played together for some time in Green Bay. But no, I don't think AJ Hawk was overrated. Marcus, appreciate you checking in, big dog. He said that Ryan was more technical, was a more technical sound pass rusher. He was elite, that E word, ELITE. Okay. So you say he was elite within the 2010s. Okay. So make your case, because we had Hawk make his case. He said that he felt that. Let me actually go back up. Let me pull up Hawk's comments. Let me make sure so I can find it. I'm gonna go through it 1 second. Hold on. He said a Ring of Fame player, but not a Hall of Fame player. Matter of fact, Marcus, do you think that Kerrigan, if he's elite, do you think that he makes it into the Hall of Fame? But yeah, he said during Kerrigan's era, you can definitely name other guys that were better than him. He said also, how many seasons during his prime did he reach over that 10 sack mark during his prime? So a good question. And what also hurts him is that he mostly played outside linebacker, which is outside of the position that he came in, because he did come into the league from Purdue as a defensive end. So let's go back to Marcus's question or a comment. He said that he was elite. So let us know if you're making the case. So we're stacking it, we're ranking it by categories and not necessarily a number on Kerrigan. We're just going through the years that he played. So we're at 2015 season. Was he elite? Was he very good? Was he good? Was he average? Was he below average? How are you going to categorize Kerrigan during his time in the 2010s? So we have a couple of varying opinions on that one. So Marcus mentioned, again, he was elite. He was more technically sound. Alex mentioned, appreciate you checking in, Alex. Kerrigan was good, but not great. OG said that he seemed as if he got comfortable with being the franchise guy and knew he didn't have to do anything spectacular. Now that's a deeper thought right there. Like he knew he was locked in, so he didn't have to do too much. Okay, Kerrigan was better than Nick Perry. I think that's, first off, I think that's just I can't keep showing Hawks comments up here, bruh. Kerrigan was a beast who was stuck in a terrible organization. Hey, appreciate you checking in. All hail Chevy. So where are you going to categorize him? So he says Kerrigan is definitely going into the Hall of Fame, just surviving how trash Washington has been over the years he was there. But to counter that, do you think that a terrible organization will get the spotlight that it deserves for Ryan Kerrigan? Like this era, like if you're getting overshadowed by Dan Snyder and the failures of high-end draft picks, and again, RIP to him, it has nothing to do with the actual tragedy, but we're talking about on the field, like how Dwayne Haskins was drafted. Dan Snyder took over that draft and forced the team to pick him in 2019 when they knew they didn't really want to take him. So failure of high-end draft picks and Dwayne Haskins, RG3 having one spectacular year, and Dan Snyder and all three, the trio, Mike Shanahan and RG3, meddling with one another after that 2012 season, ultimately destroying the structure and the organization of this offense. And then 2015, the debacle of Kirk Cousins being extended into Washington. Scott McClellan wanted to re-sign him in 2015, didn't work out. Ultimately, he leaves. Just failures after failures, and this is all during Kerrigan's time here in Washington. And that's not to include the off the field issues. Do you think that he's going to make it into the Hall of Fame? It's hard to say. It's hard to say, bro. So let's go back to Alex. He said that Cooley was critical of Kerrigan on his flimsy film. Oh, on his film. That was a typo. On his film review. He stood up straight too much and would always run directly upfield and would take him out of plays. I think that's an idea, or that's a breakdown of a lack of plan. I know for a long time we always talked about how Washington would get killed on bootlegs because our DNs would crash too much. Like they would forget about the quarterback. And on Ryan Kerrigan's side, he was on the left defensive side. That's the guy who always got beat. It was Ryan Kerrigan. Okay. So Marcus says that he should lead the franchise in sacks plus he should. He led the franchise in sacks plus he led the team in pressure. Are you saying he should as in Hall of Fame, or are you saying he should as in Ring of Fame or Ring of Honor? I mean, because we know he's going into the Ring of we know he's going into the Ring of Honor. Okay, so Chevy said when you place Kerrigan next to a rack. Hey, Breck. Speaking of Arakpo, man, that guy, it's so frustrating how his career turned out in Washington because we were talking about him earlier, Chevy. When he was franchised in 2014, we knew that it was make or break, and all the ideas behind when you're in a contract year, you step up, right? I will never forget. They were mic'd up on that 2014 game. Remember when Kirk Cousins threw like 5 picks against the Giants, and they could not stop Eli Manning that night? Brian Arakpo sat on that bench. Let me see if I can find it. Oh my God, the clip will be more hilarious. Hold on, I have to try and find it for y'all. Arakpo, New York Giants, 2014, Mike. Let me see if I can find that. Bro, that jump was hilarious. Oh my God, I can't find it. Hey, Chevy, remember, thank God. He told that coach, he said, "Hey, coach, bruh, I don't know what to tell you, bruh, but it ain't shit we can do. Can't do nothing." He told his coach that we can't do nothing. 2014, bro, he posted, let me see if he's up here. Brian Arakpo is. All right. That 2014 season, posted a half a sack and got hurt. That same year, he was on the franchise tag. Got shipped off to Tennessee the next year. But yeah, man. All right, let's go back. So here we go. We already talked about 2015. We talked about J.J. Watt, Khalil Mack entering the scene now. Vaughn is still up there around the top 10, hovering around the top 10. Kerrigan was 18th this year. Fletcher Cox now has entered the scene. And we haven't even reached... Oh, yeah, here you go. Aaron Donald, my bad. Aaron Donald right here. Okay. 2016 now, y'all. 2016. Vic Beasley had 1 year. I'm not counting. And Von Miller, of course. Danielle Hunter. Now, this is a guy where you talk about underrated, under the radar for his entire career. Look at Danielle Hunter, bro. 12 and a half sacks, 14 and a half, 14 and a half. I think he got hurt this year, so I don't, but he was on pace. If he had 1 sack a season, 1 sack a game, averaging or just under a sack a game, and he played 7 games. Imagine if he extrapolate that out to 17 games. Like another 10 plus sack season in his prime. Like this is all important stuff right here. I think Danielle Hunter is really good and underrated. And I may say that he was probably better. His career isn't done yet, but I think in the 2010s, he may be more impactful than a Ryan Kerrigan. But let's go back. Khalil Mack. I think it's safe to say we all agree that he was more impactful than Ryan Kerrigan. let's see. I really think that's it for 2015. Calais is my guy, but I don't know. Like the more I talk about it, I don't think he was more impactful than Ryan Kerrigan in terms of a pass rusher. Now he did get sacks and he made plays, but I don't think he was more impactful. I like the idea of them being on the same tier. And all for me, by the way, I think that let me go back to it. My bad. I got some people checking in. This comment is hilarious, bro. Like I 100% agree with this one. I 100% agree. If you think Kerrigan belongs in the Hall of Fame, Cooley deserves to be there as well, but I don't see it happening. Ring Hall or not Hall of Fame, even though Kerrigan didn't have any help. Hey, I respect that, man. Ring of Fame for sure. I agree. He said when you add in the mental stability, I ain't gonna lie, Chevy though. Hey, I don't really have nothing against Kerrigan in that sense, but like when you're making the case for Kerrigan, like these are a lot of external factors, right? Like that you have to take into account to try to make the case for Kerrigan. I think Kerrigan is again, we go back to it. He's definitely the Ring of Fame guy, but it's hard for like the people who vote, they ain't gonna take none of this into account. They're not gonna take none of this into account. Like the external factors, what'd you say? Playing around trash, playing on trash organizations or trash organization in Washington. It's hard for them to say, yeah, we know what he went through, so he's gonna earn that thing. Okay, Arakpo, Williams, Kerrigan, RG3. That's a strong run on first round picks. For sure. Think about it like this. There's a team up north Baltimore, Terrell Suggs. Oh hell yeah, Terrell Suggs too. I've been looking. You know what's wild? I've been passing Terrell Suggs for the longest in these things. Here you go, right here. He's 34 at this point, so he's been in the league since 03. But even still, he got, oh my goodness, 139 sacks. But he played 18 years. 18 years. That's a lot of sacks, bro. And if Kerrigan was healthy, to be honest, he would have got 100. He said his knee started bothering him. Actually, in 2013, his knee started bothering him. In 2013, but he played through it all. So that's a lot of time where you're dealing with what it is that you're dealing with. But yeah, 139 sacks. That's a good question, man. Yeah, Daniil Hunter, Willie T, man, appreciate you checking in, man. Appreciate you. He said that Hunter is one of the best pass rushers in the league. Chandler Jones still somehow underrated. For those who are just checking in too, friendly reminder, if you are new to the Trap or Die channel, make sure you like, subscribe, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. It helps the show's growth. It is truly appreciated. If you like the content, we're just closing out the show on Ryan Kerrigan. Where does he rank within his decade and or within the decade that he played, and going from there? Is he elite? Is he very good? Is he good? Is he average? Is he below average? It's hard to put a number on things, so we're going to rank it in that category, and make your case for why you think that he is. So yeah, man, that's kind of where we are with that one. And then obviously, if you are enjoying the content, man, help your boy out. A quick share, send it to a friend. You can share the link on Twitter, whatever your method of social media is. Let people know what we got going on here on the Trap or Dive channels. But back to the show. Chandler Jones is super underrated somehow, which is crazy coming from New England. He still had a stable career coming from New England. They disagree with what he got going on. Got shipped to Arizona. Jamie Collins was in a similar situation. Jamie Collins was a Swiss Army knife for them. He was a good pass rusher, and he got shipped off to Cleveland. Okay, so Hawk disagrees with me. I felt like Campbell and Kerrigan could have been on the same tier. He says that Campbell was way more impactful than Kerrigan. He played on the team where Blake Bortles was the quarterback. Did Kerrigan take any of the washed up quarterbacks to the playoffs? All right, now hold on. Now that last question is that's not fair to Kerrigan, because Campbell and the whole there's a difference between you can't put that type of weight on one player, especially like a non-impactful position. If you get what I'm saying, like for example, a receiver can't take a team to the playoffs. A cornerback can't take a team to the playoffs. An offensive lineman, a defensive lineman can't take a team to the playoffs. Like if it's different things like that. There's a lot of people, a lot of players who are on bad teams that produce really well. In that instance, if you understand what I'm saying, Hawk. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that that's a fair question on Ryan Kerrigan or comparing him to Calais Campbell. They had an elite defense that year. I think that was the same year they had Dante Fowler, obviously Jalen Ramsey. That linebacker core with some dogs. Like, so Campbell, you know, that's my guy. Arizona, he was a dog in Arizona too. He was a dog everywhere he went. He's still a dog in Baltimore. So I will concede or allow the fact that, you know, I think he could be more impactful than Kerrigan. But nah, he wasn't responsible for taking no team to the playoffs. Chevy mentioned that Kerrigan wrecked games and the offense did nothing that year. If Joe Jacoby is not in the Hall of Fame, then Kerrigan should not go in. That can end a lot of things. Kerrigan may be deserving, but he may have to wait a bit. Imagine leading the old ass franchise like Washington sacks and not making the NFL Hall of Fame. I can't give Ryan Kerrigan that Baker Mayfield pass. Sweat is my favorite. I hope we lock him up as well. Remember what we talked about OG earlier in the show too. I think it's a solid plan for that defensive line. With Terry under contract now, and what's his name? Carson Wentz, like the majority of his deal being in 2022. That is a good deal for Washington. They can restructure which way they want, or they can just keep him off the books for 2023 and 2024 if they so choose to keep him after this year. But also Duron Payne can get franchised. Montez Sweat can get extended, or even go to the 5th-year option for him as well, because his 5th-year option will be coming up after this season. So they have a lot of ways to keep these guys all intact, and it's encouraging in terms of having that continuity on the defensive line. Saxonville defense, yes sir. All right, so let's look up. Okay, yeah, so he says look up how many forced fumbles Kerrigan had. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Where was Kerrigan at on this list? Oh, my bad, I didn't sort it. All right, Kerrigan, forced fumbles. He led the league in forced fumbles in 2014. He had a total of 26. Okay, I wouldn't even know where that ranks in terms of like his career wise from 2011 to 2020. Like, where does that rank for forced fumbles? That's a lot though. 26 in really 9 years. 26 in 9 years, because he didn't have one in 2020. So 26 in 9 years. That's actually that's a lot. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead, close out with a couple more seasons. I think we're getting the gist. I wanted to make sure that when we talk about Kerrigan, we had a fair picture of the people that he were up against in terms of, like, would you categorize him as an elite player, very good, average, like within his decade, right? 2017, I'll skim through it. Chandler Jones, there goes your boy Chandler Jones, and then Calais Campbell, number 2. And then Kerrigan, number 5. Everson Griffin. We didn't even mention Everson. Like, Everson is just getting into the picture in terms of top 10, top 5-ish area. Cameron Hayward. That's my boy. What was Cameron Hayward doing early on in this year? Okay. So I wouldn't say he was necessarily like one of the better rushers, pass rushers. He was a more all-around player. He was a complete player. He is a complete player to this day for the the Bosa. Look at the Bosa guy. That's where he comes in. But that's 2017. That's towards the tail end of Kerrigan's decade. But I mean, we know he's a more impactful player than Kerrigan. But I don't think it would be fair to compare those two, because that's the tail end. Like, if he was in 2015 type, then maybe. But all right, so here we go. Aaron Donald still around. Terrell Suggs still around, hovering around that top 10 area. Ezekiel Ansah had a couple years, but nothing to say that he was more impactful than Ryan Kerrigan. There goes Aaron Donald now, top of the leaderboards, number 1, 20.5 sacks. J.J. Watt still around. Chris Jones had a couple years. I actually like Chris Jones, and he's still around too. Yeah, 9 sacks. He came in 2016. Okay, let's go back to it. What is this? What year is it? 2018. TJ Watt obviously is the new guy. TJ Watt is a dog. We know that to this day. He came in 2017. He led the league in sacks 2 straight years, 3 straight All Pros. Oh my God. All right, let's go back. Random shout out to Mason Foster. I saw you on the tackles leaderboard. Yeah, man, I think we are closing it up. Shaquille Barrett, that's interesting. I still remember that too. 2019. Yeah, man, I think look at Preston Smith up there in the top 10. Look at Preston Smith. I see you, buddy. Okay. I'll close mine out with saying that unfortunately the team never got it right, but he did what he did and wasn't a scrub. I think that's the perfect way to close it out, Hawk. I understand that, you know, we all have different and varying opinions on Ryan Kerrigan and his time as a player, like within the decade, who he was up against and who he was as a player. Overall, Kerrigan was a serviceable guy for Washington. I thought he was a good player. He just didn't reach that very good to elite tier for me. I understand that other circumstances wouldn't allow him to have a spotlight on him. In terms of like what Chevy mentioned, which is all valid. Like certain things won't allow you to have that exposure because the NFL does pick their stars. They do pick their stars. And if they wanted to, like if he was on a different team putting up 95.5 sacks in essentially a 10-year span, he would have more attention if we weren't looking at him in this same way. Then imagine if he was on another team. I think that same situation would have made, like, we would have thought that he was much better than what he really was, like from an outsider standpoint. So all of that is important and is very valid, but Hawk summarized it correctly. Thank you for your service. Appreciate what you did for Washington. He's still, regardless of what we're measuring him from an NFL standpoint, we're still have some memories, man. All 3 pick sixes that he had was something to like, damn, he's really good at this. Like that's always been something for Kerrigan that I've appreciated. And like I think that's where we can really close it out on, man. He is a memorable guy. He is a memorable player for Washington. He's Mr. Consistent for whatever it is and whatever level that he is. Like he was always consistent in what he did. So with that being said, yo, hey, this was another episode of the Washington Commanders Morning Show on the Trap or Dive channel. I will be back again this upcoming Wednesday, 7 a.m. Oh, I might be at training camp. I'm still contemplating. I'm a little upset with how my situation's been going with the Commanders. It's something that you all don't really know too much about, but I don't know just yet. But if I do make that commitment, I'll be at training camp, and you know we'll see how that goes from there. But just letting you all know the situation. But let's say 7 a.m. Wednesday, and go from there. Y'all be safe. Enjoy y'all day. Enjoy y'all night. Whenever you're watching this, training camp should be live right now too for the Commanders. Y'all go ahead and get into that and see what some news and nuggets for yourself that's popping up. So yeah, y'all be safe.